open your hand, and let go. Discover a profound Zen story about detachment, inner peace, and the wisdom of letting go. Join a young disciple as he learns to release what he cannot control and finds serenity in the present moment. In a small monastery nestled among mountains and rivers, there lived a young disciple named Taro. His heart was full of desires and worries. He could not stop clinging to everything: his achievements, his fears, and what he thought he should be. Every day, his mind churned like a raging river, and peace always seemed just out of reach. One day, his master called him over and said, "Come with me, Taro. Today you will learn something that no technique can teach. Only silence and experience can reveal it." Walking along the river, Taro watched as the water flowed, carrying leaves, branches, and small stones. He tried to stop them with his hands, but the water kept moving, unstoppable. Then his master, with a calm smile, said, "Look at the river. Everything flows. Everything comes, everything goes. Why struggle to hold on to what does not belong to you?" Taro lowered his head, speechless. He realized that, like him, many things in his life needed to be released. His master extended an open hand toward the wind and added, "Open your hand and let go. Only then will you find the freedom you seek." The young disciple took a deep breath. For the first time, he felt a glimpse of peace. The first step toward serenity was not in holding on, but in learning to let go. The next day, the master invited Taro to walk through the forest. Among the trees, the wind played with the leaves, and the sunlight filtered gently through the branches. Every step they took seemed to teach the young disciple something. Nature never clings, everything changes, everything flows. "Observe, Taro," the master said. "The flower you see bloom today will fall tomorrow. The tree that grows lets go of its leaves. Nothing remains, and everything follows its own path." Taro looked at his own closed hands, filled with anxiety and fear of losing what he thought was his. He realized that his suffering came from trying to control the uncontrollable. The master sat beside a small stream and asked Taro to do the same. He picked up a small stone from the ground and handed it to him. "Feel its weight," he said. "This is how your worries feel. Now, throw it into the water." Taro hesitated, but finally let the stone fall. He watched as the stream carried it away, disappearing from sight. A new lightness settled in his chest, a whisper of freedom he had never felt before. "Like this, Taro," the master whispered. "Open your hand and let go. Everything you release teaches you that life is greater than your fears and desires." Over time, Taro began to notice how much lighter his heart felt. Whenever he tried to hold on to something, he remembered the stone he had let go into the stream and took a deep breath, releasing his attachment. One afternoon, while sweeping the monastery courtyard, he saw a butterfly land on a flower. He tried to gently catch it, but it lifted into the air and disappeared among the golden rays of the sun. Taro smiled. For the first time, he understood that wanting to possess beauty was as futile as trying to stop the wind. The master watched him in silence and then said, "Taro, it's not about not feeling, but about not clinging. Pain and joy come and go, like passing clouds. When you learn to open your hand, you discover that your peace doesn't depend on what you have, but on what you let flow." That night, Taro closed his eyes and meditated. He felt his mind releasing the thoughts that had once tormented him. He breathed calmly, sensing something deep within him shift. Life was no longer a chain of burdens. It was a river he could navigate with serenity and acceptance. One day, a fellow monk at the monastery lost a valuable object and came to Taro seeking comfort. The young disciple immediately felt the urge to offer words of control, to fix the situation, as he used to do. But he remembered the master's lesson. Open your hand and let go. He took a deep breath and simply listened. He offered no advice, made no attempt to hold onto what was lost. He simply remained present, with an open heart and a calm mind. His friend, surprised by Taro's serenity, felt an unexpected relief as well. He realized that not everything needs an immediate solution. Sometimes, letting things take their natural course is the wisest action. That night, Taro meditated by the river and understood that opening the hand didn't just mean letting go of objects. It also meant releasing emotions, expectations, and attachments. Every time the heart clings, it closes. Every time it lets go, life flows in harmony. The master, seeing him meditate, approached and smiled. Taro, you have learned the essence of detachment. True freedom arises when you recognize that everything passes and that you truly possess nothing. One morning, Taro received the news that a close friend would have to leave the monastery to follow his own path. At first, a knot of sadness and fear formed in his chest. He wanted his friend to stay. He wanted to hold on, as he had once tried with everything he loved. He sat by the river and watched the water flow without stopping. He remembered the stones, the leaves, the butterfly. Everything went, and everything returned in a different way. Everything followed its natural course. He took a deep breath and whispered silently, "Open your hand and let go." When his friend said goodbye, Taro offered a serene smile. There was no sadness, no fear, only acceptance and gratitude for the time they had shared. Taro's heart felt wider than ever. He understood that attachment does not protect, it confines. Letting go was an act of deep love, one that freed rather than held. The master, watching from afar, nodded with satisfaction. Now you understand, Taro. Life is not measured by what you keep, but by what you let flow. Every open hand is a free heart. That night, as the moon illuminated the river, Taro closed his eyes and felt a deep peace within. The river continued on its unstoppable path, and he no longer struggled against its flow. He walked with it. Days passed, and Taro faced an even deeper challenge, his own fear of loneliness. He realized that, although he had learned to let go of things and people, he still held on to emotions and expectations within himself. His heart sometimes closed in the face of uncertainty, afraid of what life might take from him. One morning, the master called him and led him to the top of a hill. From there, they could see the entire valley. Trees, rivers, clouds drifting slowly. "Taro," the master said, "observe how everything changes without anything stopping. Even your thoughts come and go like these clouds. Do not try to cling to them." The young disciple closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Slowly, he allowed his fears to dissolve like morning mist. He felt the freedom of depending on nothing, of holding on to nothing, not even his own sense of security. For the first time, he understood that letting go was not a loss, but an expansion of the heart. The master smiled. "Now you know that opening your hand and letting go is not only a teaching about the outer world. It is also a path inward. True peace arises when you learn to flow with life, without resisting." Taro opened his eyes and gazed over the valley. Everything was in motion, and he, at last, was too. Without fear, without attachment, simply in harmony with the flow of existence. One day, while Taro was meditating by the river, a fierce storm swept over the monastery. The wind tore branches from trees, and the river swelled, crashing against the rocks. The young disciple felt a surge of fear and the urge to cling to the safety of his surroundings. But then he remembered the master's lessons. Open your hand and let go. He remained still, watching as the storm tore through what he had believed to be steady and constant. Slowly, he understood that everything in life is in constant change, and resisting only brings suffering. Instead of struggling, he chose to flow with the storm, to accept its power, and let it pass. When the rain stopped and the sun returned, Taro looked around. Everything seemed the same, yet he felt different. The storm had taken nothing from him. On the contrary, it had taught him that his inner freedom does not depend on external circumstances. The master approached and placed his hand on Taro's shoulder. Today you have understood the true meaning of opening your hand and letting go. The peace you seek has always been within you, waiting for you to release your fears, your desires, and your attachments. Taro closed his eyes, breathed deeply, and felt his heart expand into a fullness of silence. Calm, infinite, and complete. At last, he knew that to let go was to live fully. As the days passed, Taro discovered that the practice of opening his hand and letting go had become his natural way of living. Every thought, every emotion, every relationship was like a breeze he could receive and then release. His heart was no longer trapped in anxiety or fear. It was free, light, in harmony with life. The master watched as Taro walked beside the river, his eyes calm and his smile serene. You have learned, Taro, that detachment is not absence, but fullness. It is not about renouncing the world, but about living without clinging, receiving with gratitude, and letting go with love. Taro understood that true freedom is not found in what you possess, but in what you allow to flow. Every open hand was an act of love toward life and toward himself. Every moment of letting go was a doorway to peace and inner wisdom. From that day on, Taro no longer feared losing anything, for he had discovered that life always brings what is necessary, and that happiness does not depend on holding on, but on knowing how to let go. And so, with every breath, he learned to live fully, free like the river that never stops, open to the wonder of each passing moment.